Well, hey there, Elevate friends and family. Mark Pomery here, welcoming you to this week's Elevate Church online experience. Fantastic to have you with us for our Jesus on Money series, especially those of you joining us for the very first time. And if you are joining us for the very first time, make sure you go back and either watch the first 2 episodes of this series, or you can jump on our podcast and listen to them. Hey, one of the things we love to do together is we love to worship together. And this week we have our worship partner. His name is Stephen Malcolm. He's let me just say, he's a little different and good different. So I encourage you to join in. The words are going to be on the screen. Let's worship God together.
My God took nothing, turn it into something. Take a look and see how he craft a masterpiece. This kind of loving, ain't none above it. My God takes nothing, turns it into something. Yeah. I got a cousin about to be 1 year sober. Addiction had him gripped, almost dipped into that coma. Left empty as that bottle, broken past to deal with. Trying to numb the pain, PTSD, I feel it. I know a shorty 16 and she pregnant. Told me life was over and her parents don't accept it. Thinking about abortion, crying tears as she spoke. I told her God got her back and that baby gon' be hope. Yeah. Cause my God turns nothing into something, yeah. Ain't no mountain too high, ain't no valley too low. Ain't no one that's too far, anywhere him I go. My God took nothing, turned it into something. Take a look and see how he craft a masterpiece. This kind of loving, ain't none above it. My God takes nothing, turns it into something, yeah. Got a lot up on my mind and that's including suicide. Little man feeling this way, pain buried deep inside. What to do when mental health is at an all-time low? My bros have been feeling lately, death been knocking at his front door. He won't let it back in, I got woes that slung dope. Now they give the block hope, they wait to see miracles. I tell them just look around, stories of the broken, that's that new heaven sound. Yeah, and let the church sing, let the church praise. And anybody that has invaded the glory of the Lord, stand up and praise and say, my God took nothing, turned it into something. Take a look and see how he craft a masterpiece. This kind of loving, ain't none above it. My God takes nothing, turns it into something. My God took nothing, turned it into something. Take a look and see how he craft a masterpiece. This kind of loving, ain't none above it. My God takes nothing, turns it into something. Yeah, my God took nothing, turned it into something. Take a look and see how he craft a masterpiece. This kind of loving, ain't none above it. My God took nothing, turned it into something. Check, 1, 2, CCLI. My name is Stephen Malcolm from the mighty Midwest. My DJ on the 1s and 2s, the bad guy. All glory to God, yeah. We serve a God that will never let us down. He will never let us go. Yeah. Drag my name through the mud, ain't the same that I was. Bet they still gon' judge, buddy. I've been covered by the blood, I've been killing what I should, still serving in my hood, yeah, been popping is crazy, I don't deserve it, lifestyle of the young and way, came from a broken home, daddy was never there, wanted mama to abort the baby. Yeah, substance abuse in my family tree hung around too often. Picked up the sins of my parents like I was bound to fall in. Got a lot of weight on my plate, but hey, it come with the calling. And I've been jumping through these rings trying to go supersonic. How ironic, my name is Truth, now I live it, and my life's a studio visit. Heaven sent mission, what a pivot. Freddie T on my P's and Q's, living proof he can use whatever he wantin'. Back again like what's happening, and I'm at the grave like my name Lazarus. New life with a clean slate, no debate when he cast the net. Many times I went AWOL and could've left me all in my messy, but he picked me up when I was at my lowest, raised me up and then blessed me, yeah. Ayy, clean me up and renew me, you the one, we the two-piece, see the sun and he never let me go, yeah. Clean me up and renew me, you the one, we the two-piece, see the sun and he never let me go. Through the pain and struggle, never let me go when I fall and fumble. Never let me go when I trip and fall short. Never let me go, though I'm a wretch of some sort. Never let me go, never let me go. You stood in the way, took the burden off my plate. Never let me go, I just had to grow. Blood leading stain was the lover of my soul, yeah. Holiest Heavenly Father, report for my DNA, call it a calling. Not only the author, been writing my way through the calling and placing it at the altar. That big faith take little faith. Wonder why I got no breaks. I push glory for a king that became a man just so I can save face. Ay, clean me up and renew me. You the one, we the two-piece. See the sun and he never let me go, yeah. Clean me up and renew me. You the one, we the two-piece. See the sun and he never let me go through the pain and struggle. Never let me go when I fall and fumble. Never let me go when I trip and fall short. Never let me go though I'm a wretch of some sort. Never let me go. He will never let me go. Never let me down. Yeah, we serve a God who will never let me go. Never let me down. Yeah.
So you've probably noticed that we throw the word luck around quite a bit. You know, we like to wish people good luck. We talk about the luck of the draw, lucky in love. I came across a story this week of a guy who, well, you could say he's a pretty lucky guy. He got into a pretty serious car accident. He was actually legally, clinically dead for 14 minutes. They had to put him in a coma for 2 weeks. And then as he continued to recover, he was kind of thinking, yeah, like I'm on a bit of a lucky streak. And so he decided to propose to his girlfriend. And she said yes. Sometime later, he bought a scratch and match lottery ticket, which we call a scratchy, and he won a car. And a news outlet heard about this streak of luck that this guy was having. So they reached out to him and said they want to do a story. And so they brought the camera crews in. And as a part of the story, they wanted to film him going into a convenience store, buying a scratchy, coming back out and in front of the camera, scratching it off, which he did. Went in, bought the ticket, came out, scratched it off, held it up to the camera. He won $250,000 on camera. And I'm happy for the guy, but look, I want to put it to you that as a follower of Jesus, I don't think we have to kind of hope that one day we will be lucky as a determinant for our success. No, I believe in a God who is sovereign, a God who's in control, and a God who's clearly laid out some principles, and this is the key word, principles for living, that if we learn them and consistently apply them, we'll see ourselves better positioned to get the sort of blessing and favor and success that God ultimately wants for his kids. So I want to unpack one of those principles today. And just so I know who I'm speaking to, how many of you would love to be more blessed? Just ask yourself that question. And don't worry, it's not a trick question. You know, I'm talking about wanting to be more blessed in your marriage, more blessed with your health, more blessed in your business or your career, more blessed in friendships, blessed with your kids, blessed with finances. And I'm going to repeat what I just said. The good news is God has laid out some principles that if we learn them and consistently apply them, we will be better positioned to see more of God's blessing in our life. And the one principle I want to unpack today is called the faithfulness principle. And it literally goes like this. When you're faithful with little, God can trust you with more. Hold that thought. I'll come back to it shortly. Now, we're in this teaching series we've called Jesus on Money. And every year we teach a series on God's principles of financial management. This year, looks a little bit different from maybe previous years, but what we're learning is that some of what Jesus taught about how we are to think about and manage money and stuff looks different from the culture that we live in. And I think it's the most important thing to learn what Jesus has to say about managing money and stuff. So in week 1, we taught the treasure principle, where Jesus warned us to not make this act of endlessly accumulating more money and stuff our number one priority. That instead, he wants us to prioritize things of eternal value. Know that we can't take it with us, but we can actually send some of it ahead. Week 2, last week, we taught about the security principle. And Jesus warns us, don't make the mistake of thinking everything God blesses you with is just about you and just for you, because tomorrow's isn't guaranteed, and you can have all of this stuff in the world, you can't take it with you. And so instead of putting everything into accumulating more stuff for you, about you, prioritize developing a rich relationship with God and placing your security in God himself. Now, you can go back and watch either of those 2 episodes here on YouTube, or you can head over to our podcast. Just search Elevate Church Perth on your favorite podcast app, and those messages will be there. All right, speaking of apps, if you scan this flow code, it's going to take you to the Bible app, and it's going to take you to Luke chapter 16. Now, this is going to be where we literally see Jesus very clearly outline the faithfulness principle. While you're doing that, let me just repeat it. The faithfulness principle is this: when you're faithful with little, God can trust you with more. Now, Jesus is actually recorded by his biographers as teaching the faithfulness principle on 4 separate occasions, and he's teaching his followers how they can position themselves, how you can position yourself, how I can position myself for greater favor and blessings with God. So in Luke chapter 16, Jesus had just finished telling a story, and we're actually going to come back to that story. And then he kind of hits the mic drop moment in verse 10. And I'll read this in 2 different versions. He says, if you're faithful in little things, you will be faithful in large ones. But if you're dishonest in little things, you won't be honest with greater responsibilities. In the New International Version, it's recorded as Jesus saying this: whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So we learn right here, right now, this faithfulness principle really is all about trust. Are we demonstrating to God that we are trustworthy? And I just think of it from a pragmatic standpoint. If you can't be trusted with little, why in the world would God send you more? It's literally wasteful, and God isn't wasteful. So right out of the bat, if you want to position yourself where God can bless you more, according to the faithfulness principle, manage your little. Now, I'm happy to disclose, I learned this principle when I was in my 20s, and it changed everything. It was a game changer for me. But what I've observed is too many people get this principle back to front. Like, that's the mistake. And it kind of sounds like this: when I have more, then I'm going to take things more seriously. When I have a nice car, then I'm going to look after it. But the one I have now, what's the point? When I have a better job, then I'm going to bring my best to the workplace. When I have a nice house, then I'm going to take care of it. When I have more money, then I'm going to learn to get better at managing it. But this is the opposite of the faithfulness principle, where Jesus says, if you're faithful with little, you can be trusted with more. Now, we will come back to this story that Jesus taught before he dropped that verse 10. But let me skip back over to another story. This is one of the 4 times Jesus taught the faithfulness principle, where he taught in the Sermon on the Mount the parable, not the Sermon on the Mount, forget I said that. He taught the parable of the talents, is what we now call it. And in this story, there's 4 main characters. There's the master or the owner, a wealthy gentleman, as it were, and then three servants. And what we see is the owner was going away on a long trip, and so he entrusted his three servants with silver, with an amount of silver. And in fact, the first one he gave the equivalent of, or entrusted the equivalent of $5 million. The second servant entrusted him with the equivalent of about $2 million. And the third servant entrusted him with the equivalent of about $1 million. Now remember, this is a very important distinction. They weren't given the money. They were entrusted with the money. What they were given was the responsibility of managing the owner's money while he was away. Well, the guy that was entrusted with $5 million got busy straight away. He invested it, and he ultimately doubled the $5 million. The guy with the $2 million did exactly the same thing, doubled the money that was entrusted to him. But the third guy, who had been entrusted with $1 million, he didn't get busy. In fact, he gave into fear and effectively did nothing. In fact, he buried the $1 million, and it wasn't until the master came back that he dug that back up. Because when the master returned, the first guy very proudly reported to the master, hey, listen, I've taken your $5 million and I've made it 10. The second guy proudly, I took the $2 million, I've made it 4. The third guy said, I took your $1 million and I buried it. And so I didn't increase anything. Here's your $1 million back. Well, for the first two, the master said exactly the same thing to each of them. He was full of praise. Well done, my good and faithful servant. You've been faithful, this is that word, in handling this small amount. So now I'll give you many more responsibilities, more blessing, more favor, more opportunities. Let's celebrate together. What about the guy who buried the $1 million? Well, Jesus taught that the master said, take the bag away from him and give it to the one who has 10 bags. And then Jesus said this, mic drop moment, to those who use well what they are given, even more will be given. This is the faithfulness principle. And they'll have an abundance. But from those who do nothing, even what they have will be taken away. So let's kind of zoom out. Just ask the question, why is it that some people are inclined to bury what God entrusts? And I mentioned this first of all, and Jesus, when he taught the parable of the talents, said that the main driver for the guy that had been trusted with the $1 million for burying it was fear. And look, it's actually quite okay and often quite understandable if we're a little bit, feeling a little bit, I don't know, intimidated or overwhelmed with some of the things that God calls us to do that are going to stretch us and cause us to step outside of our comfort zone, to have that little bit of apprehension, little bit of fear. It's okay to feel that. It's quite understandable oftentimes, but the mistake is allowing fear to have the final word and doing nothing. So that's one reason that some people bury what God entrusts. Another one is self-doubt. You know, I'm not good enough, I'm not qualified, or not qualified, I'm disqualified. I mean, if God knew, if he knew what I did, if he knew what I thought, if he knew what I said, there's no way that I'm worthy, could be chosen, any way that I'm even in position to do things for God. But just here's the reminder, God does know what you did, thought, said. And you're not disqualified because his grace is sufficient for you. His grace forgives you. His grace, it restores you. And his grace, not your performance, is what makes you worthy of more favor and blessing from God. And then there's this one, self-pity. Because did you notice that not all three servants were given the same amount, and like comparison is a problem for some people because they spend their time looking at other people who seem to have been entrusted with more gifts, more talents, more opportunities, a better upbringing, better education, and see themselves as therefore not in the same league. Like maybe even feeling a little resentful. You know, if I had as much as them, yeah, then I'd get serious about managing it, but I don't. Or, hey, listen, if God loves everyone the same, like he claims to, how come he's given them more than me? This self-pity kind of thing, feeling a little ripped off. But if you take that perspective, you actually overlook God's goodness, because there's a line in Jesus' story that I think it's very easy to kind of skip over or just read and keep plowing through the story. But from my perspective, it's actually one of the most important aspects of Jesus' story, where Jesus makes the point. He says that the owner gave 5 bags of silver to one, 2 bags of silver to another, and 1 bag of silver to the last. We know that. But then Jesus said this, dividing it in proportion to their abilities. It wasn't random. Jesus knew that at that point in time, the first guy had the ability to manage $5 million. The second guy didn't have the ability to manage $5 million. And the third guy didn't have the ability to manage either $5 or $2 million at that point in their lives. And because God's good, he didn't give them amounts that were going to overwhelm them, amounts that were going to crush them, amounts that were going to cause them to not be able to sleep at night. No, he gave them each a different amount in proportion to their abilities. This is a reflection of God's goodness. So instead of complaining about what you haven't got, just know that a good God, even if it seems less than someone else, that right now he has given you a certain amount, and all he wants to see is you being faithful with that amount, even if it feels like a little. You know, if you have dreams of doing more, being more, having more, it often doesn't start. In fact, it almost always doesn't start with big opportunities. The faithfulness principle reminds us that it almost always starts with being faithful with what God's entrusted you with today, even if it seems like a little. All right. So, back to Luke chapter 16. We dropped in there first, verse 10. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And it was the mic drop at the end of the story, although Jesus did go on to also highlight who can be trusted with worldly wealth, can also be trusted with true riches, and whoever can be trusted with other people's things can also be entrusted with their own. I don't have time to go into those today. They are very, very, very vital principles. I've taught on them before. I'll probably teach on them again. But the story that Jesus preceded these kind of 3 faithfulness principle mic drop moments, the story that he preceded that with, it's actually a bit of a mind bender, to be honest. It goes like this, that there was a rich owner, once again, rich owner. And the rich owner, he'd actually had been employing a manager to manage all of his financial affairs. And the rich owner discovered, like it was revealed to him, that the manager had been wasting the rich owner's money. So the owner calls the manager in, tells him that he's fired, says you've got a short window of time where you need to get the accounts together, bring me a report, and then you're done. That's it. You're out of here. And so the manager's now been exposed, and he's now facing the reality that that chapter of his life was about to close. And he said in Jesus' story that he was acknowledged he was too weak to do physical labor, like dig ditches, that he was too proud to beg. So he came up with a plan. And the plan was to call in all of the people who owed the owner money, like they were indebted to different amounts to the owner. And as as they came to the soon-to-be let-go manager, the manager basically halved the amount owing and signed off on it and gave it back to them. He's actually ripping off his boss, literally. That's what's going on here. And normally, and understandably, when Jesus taught this kind of story about how we should live and kingdom doing right and being honest and living with integrity and so on and so forth, you know, this guy, he'd be the villain, and the moral of the story would be a warning: don't be like this guy. Fair enough, sounds about right. But in a unique plot twist, as Jesus is telling this story, Jesus reveals that when the boss found out what the manager had been doing, half off your debt, he actually admired how clever the manager was. So here's the dynamics. The manager's losing his job. He's going to be losing his reputation. That chapter was coming to an end. Like, the days were literally numbered for him. And he figured out a way to use resources that weren't even his to set things up for himself in the future. That's literally what was going on here. And Jesus, people are puzzled, like, how is this guy the good guy in this story? How's he the one we're supposed to emulate? Jesus said, here's the lesson. Use your worldly resources to benefit others and make friends. Then, when your possessions are gone, you can't take them with you. They will welcome you to an eternal home. Now, any Monopoly players out there? Yeah, it's a classic. I think, okay, it's a classic. Well, some people take their Monopoly playing very seriously. I know that there's cheating and there's arguing and there's family breakups. But one of the most important lessons Monopoly teaches us is that when the game is ultimately over, it no longer matters who's got the most money and the most houses and the most hotels, because it all goes back in the box. And friends, like it or not, welcome to life. There will be a day when we leave our mortal physical bodies and we can't take anything with us. The only thing at that point that matters is the legacy we've left here on earth and what we've invested in things of eternal value. Be like the shrewd manager. And I'm just so encouraged and so proud as the senior leader of Elevate Church that even just over the last couple of weeks, we've seen more and more people in this area of practicing financial generosity take either first steps. I've never actually given to God, given to the local church, or in other cases, people have taken next steps. They've gotten to a place where they're like, okay, it's time to take my faith to another level, and I'm going to demonstrate that by committing to giving more. And we love that, because I don't just lead the local church, I'm a product of the local church. And all of the things that God has done, all of the blessings he has provided, all of the opportunities that I've had to be a part of the local church, and all of the life change that I have gotten to see and get to see and expect to see more of, I'm giving to that. That's me and my wife. We are smoking what we're selling. And so if you've never taken a first step, can I encourage you? Jump on our website, elevatechurch.me, jump on our app, Elevate Church AU app, go to the Give section and take that first step. And it might just be a baby step. Or if you have been consistently giving, maybe, just maybe, God's saying, great, you've been faithful with little. It's time to kick it up a gear. Let's take this thing to the next level. Okay, cool. We'll see you next week. Hey, so in case you missed it, we have an app. You can scan this flow code and it'll take you to your particular app store. You can download it. One of the features I want to highlight that we've seen people find incredibly useful is the message notes section. You'll find it there on the landing page. There's a tile there, message notes. And each week we post up the summary of the message notes from this week's message, the main points, the Bible verses and the links to the Bible app. And you can just follow along. There's even at the bottom a notes section. You can make your own notes as well. Just a really great tool to catch up, keep up, follow along, or even review after in the week or two following the message. So get on that. Also in the app, you'll find our giving section. I talked about that in the message. So just jump on there, and we appreciate your generosity, helping us reach more people and build more people just like you. All right, that's it for today. Look forward to seeing you back here next week for the fourth and final installment of our series, Jesus on Money.